There it goes. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the beginning and show the first slide so everyone knows it's day 4. I'm so sorry. It's Friday. All right. So yeah, I've had it. Whoever put this here about playing on other screens in video games, at the high school level, that is definitely true. I don't know if you guys have ever heard how many screens some of our students have when they're like real active video gamers. I literally have one kid. I had one kid, had one kid for the last 2 years. I had him in like 2 sessions of summer school and 1.5 school years of English. He had to repeat 1 semester. And this kid had like 5 or 6 computer screens on top of like a tablet. I see your face, Maria. I love your faces. But literally he had like 5 or 6 screens going on, and he would do my live session. He would have another screen with our assignment activity sheet. Then he would play on another computer screen with Fortnite. Then he would have Netflix or anime on another and he would literally tell me, Miss K, I am paying attention, I promise. So yeah, that can be an issue. All of these are very valid concerns and worries, especially when it comes to the digital divide. And I'm glad that these conversations are being held at the district level, and they will revisit them on Tuesday, because we do have to find a way. I don't know if you guys were aware, but CCSD said, you know, if it comes to it, we're probably going to go back to phase 1. If we go back to phase 1, then we definitely have to be ready and willing to do these live sessions. We have to do it different than what we did in the spring. So we have to be on our A game at all times if we go back to phase 1. We do not want to see ourselves falling backwards. So let's go ahead and move forward and see how we can help each other create live sessions. There is somewhat of a blueprint to live sessions. At least that's how I see it in my mind. So these are the 4 things that always help me remember to lead my 1 hour of live sessions. And 1 hour, it doesn't have to necessarily be 1 hour. We all know elementary school teachers or elementary school students are not going to be able to sit through 1 hour of instruction. It's just not going to happen. If it lasts an hour, it's because you have to tell the same 5 kids to turn off their microphone, to stop sharing to their favorite toy, or if they're on a mobile device because their parents put it on a phone or a tablet, please don't give us a tour of your home. But when we look at how to engage the students and how we do a lesson at the middle school and high school level, 60 minutes is not that far off of a regular class period. And so that's what we do at the middle school and high school level at NVLA. It's pretty doable and consistent across whoever decides to do blended and online learning with live sessions. Templates will be your friend. And when I say templates, I mean something that you use that you can copy over and over and over again. It keeps everything looking clean, modern, and then students become used to certain focal points, whether it's in your live session PowerPoint, if it's in the assignment document. Keeping those things become visual cues for them, as well as the verbal cues that you would use normally in the classroom, you would bring into the live session. Helps keep consistency within your instruction, whether it's in the classroom or online. Guide and release. I do, we do, they do. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked to sit in on a live session of some of my colleagues, and all they do is sit and lecture to their students for a whole hour. And I feel bad for those students because they came and showed up and they wanted the attendance and the points and everything, but they were just talked to for an hour for something that they could have done in the lesson, in the course. So when you're doing your live sessions, you want it to be more so focusing on an activity together that you can guide them into, then you guys do it together, and then they can do the rest on their own, just like in the classroom. You'll notice that as you start planning these out and getting used to the consistency and the routine, it's very similar to you just jumping into your classroom and starting and stopping a lesson. And then engagement. Engagement is super important. So let's look at each one. Live session slides. Those are going to be your lifesaver, as well as activity worksheets. If you're using apps, so like for instance, I've been using Padlet with you guys this week to kind of show on the screen to get everyone's answers together, so we're not trying to scroll up and down in the chat screen of our Google Meet. From my understanding, I don't know what the district is probably going to have us use for our live sessions. So looking at the limitations of Google Meet versus me having access to Adobe Connect the last few years, which is like the top elite. If you guys know what Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, and all those are those really expensive but super cool programs to do things with images. They have a really cool online collaborating meeting software program, and I've become very spoiled with it. So as I've been doing these webinars with you guys, I've been learning the limitations of Google Meet. And in order to be able to see everyone's conversation, it would be very hard to scroll up and down into the chat screen. That's why I use Padlets, because now we can see everyone's responses. We can go up and down in it. You have access to the Padlet, so you can go up and down, whether it's categories or helping arrange topics and responses into categories. It allows the students to become part of the process that normally you would just lead on your own. Just that sort of engagement keeps the students involved, and they don't realize that, you know, they're part of the process, just like they would be in the classroom when they're online. Oops. So when I talk about sessions and slides, I gave you guys in your Google Drive, or excuse me, your Google Form, access to this Google Drive folder. It's called templates, and then there's another folder in here called examples. So I gave you guys an idea. If you guys want to add this folder into your drive, you should be able to. Yeah, add shortcut to drive. I gave everyone access. Anyone who has links to this. So if you want to share this with your friends who are also teachers, feel free to share this folder out. I don't care. These things were made on CCSD resources, so they're free to anyone to borrow and tweak on their own. So when I create live sessions, I normally use PowerPoint because we had Adobe Connect. If we have to do Google Meet, it's easier to do the Google Slides, and here's why. You'll notice in my Google Chrome web browser, I have the tabs at the top, right? This is part of my consistent routine. So as I've been working with you guys this week, I've been trying to find a way to build a routine to create live sessions with students if I'm forced to use Google Drive. The reason why I say if you do use Google Meet and you're leading live sessions, you'll want to use Google Slides because of how big you can make this specific slide/screen and still have access to all of your sources and activities and web apps you need in the same spot. If you were to use Microsoft Word, you would have to go between two different screens, and that can become a little annoying. I like the flow of having everything in one little toolbar right here. Again, that's just a preference. You'll come to learn what your preferences are and build your own routine and figure out what works best for you in your teaching style. So as I was saying, you guys have access to my Google Slides, where literally I just have something that tells them about if they're not in today's live session, they have to watch the recording. They do the assignment that coordinates with the live session or the recording. Give them a pretty title slide, which you guys will see in the examples. I have in today's session what they'll be doing. I reuse the same slides if there's more than one activity. I use the same header for the slides. The warm-ups, every single week, same slide. So this is why I said templates are important. Set up your blanks, because here's what happens. I don't like Calibri. That's like the go-to font in Microsoft PowerPoint. So another way to make sure all of your preferences are in one template document, set out a few blank slides, but then obviously we can't see them. But in PowerPoint or in Google Slides, we always see the text boxes. Set your preferences up. Put the titles of each slide centered if you want, bold them, change the color, then save this as a template, and then you just make copies of it, and you don't have to redo it every single time. I have the same slide every week for my wrap-up. So these are the visual cues I'm talking about. The students will know what's coming up by seeing the specific cues over and over again. I always ask questions at the end, and then because we're online, I give them my contact information. This is old information, but and then of course I taught regular and honors, so I had 2 different slides, and I would take one out for whichever one I wasn't teaching that time and delete that slide. So just the template of this will save you time, because then you're not thinking about, oh, I have to reposition this, I have to bold this, everything's done for you. All you have to do is plug in pictures. Oh, I see a student. Maria, is that one of your kids? I see a kid's head. So that makes life easier. So again, I also have a welcome slide that you can just insert at the beginning of your PowerPoint, similar to like what I have when I have you guys come into the room and it says before we begin. You could do something like that as well. You can have this right here to let them know before you start. You must stay in the whole time. So this was my thing. You have to stay in the whole time in order to earn attendance and participate in order to get the 20 points just for attending. So, you know, giving them information that's consistent in this manner helps with them building that routine. I also create templates for their live session activities. So this is the bare bones. I'll show you guys examples in a moment, but basically it follows through the slides. So if I'm asking them anything where they're supposed to give me a response, similar to me asking you guys, all right, go ahead and put this in your Google form and then put it in the Padlet. It's similar in this way. They're putting it in the chat screen of the live session as well as putting it on their document. So let's go ahead and look at some examples because those are prettier and I like those. All right, so what I've given you guys is 2 examples of live session documents and 2 examples of playback session assignments. They're honestly the same thing. The only difference is the instructions. So the instructions, I tell them at the top for live sessions that they have to complete all the components in the document in order to earn full points. I talk about participation during the live session. When you go into the playback session document, I force them to be reminded that they're supposed to review the recording as they're completing this, and that I do check recording logs to see if they can do that. Now, this is again from Adobe Connect. I have not figured out yet how I would track a student viewing my Google Meet recording. I haven't researched that yet, but that's something I plan to do if this is the tool we'll be forced to use. So when you're looking at these documents, this is actually what you guys are going to be doing today. You guys are going to be going through and creating a document that's similar to even just a worksheet or an assignment sheet you would create in your class. I use tables, again, just like what I was showing you guys in Canvas assignments and pages this week. I use tables to help guide information and where to place answers. So as you can see, I have a header. I use colors to kind of map out where they should and should not be writing. I put colors where the header should be to kind of make it pop out. I give them spaces to respond. So if you come down here, I have this short little graphic organizer right here. I ask them a question, and then they have to give me ideas, and I prompt them statements, questions, and real world examples, and then they can see the categories. Same thing over here. I ask them for one positive thought from a specific statement, a negative thought from a specific statement. So I'm guiding the answers without giving them the answers. I'm prompting them to think openly, and then they give me their responses in the worksheet. And then what I do is I collect this at the end, and then this becomes their assignment sheet, and I grade it. So then you have a formative assessment of your live session to use in the gradebook. Same thing with a playback session. They would just watch the recording instead. So then you're just building, again with tables, using colors, using bold, italics, creating the white space for them to write in. So just as I showed you guys how to make a copy for students, and they make the copy into their Google Drive to write on, you would do that for all of your assignments. It keeps it clean, it keeps it neat, it keeps the information where you want it. It allows you to have the control over the flow of information, what you need from the students to assess their skills and standards. I'm going to go ahead and allow you guys to click around in here for a little bit. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. And then we are going to move on. We've talked about consistency, and then we'll talk about guide and release. So go ahead and take a couple minutes to just click around, and then I will move forward with guide and release. All right, so we all know what guide and release is. Walk them through, we facilitate conversation, we're checking for understanding, and then we're doing I do, we do, they do with activities. Oops. Let's go ahead and go back into our Google Forms, and I want you guys to go ahead and give me some ideas of how you think you'll be creating, whether it's templates for your slides to give them information, or worksheets to build activities within your live session to go with your live session. Think about how you'll create your live sessions in the phases of front loading. And what I mean by that is your templates. Kahoot's a really good one for engagement. Quizlets are good as well. This is a good idea. Templates as a PLC or school. Now, I know we had a conversation about this yesterday about how sometimes schools will mandate certain things that other schools may not be doing. So templates for live sessions, it could be a possibility. I know a lot of administrators, and let me know in the chat screen if this is still correct. A lot of schools give you a template to use in Curriculum Engine to fill out for lesson plans. So if that's the case, Carol, what is? Okay, I'm sorry, my chat screen just moved. Like a bunch of stuff just came in. So you guys should have access to this folder in your Google form, to the templates and examples form folder. The examples are inside the templates folder. Let me open up your Google form. That's not what I want. Yeah, I see it in there. Thank you, Mel. I appreciate that. You need the link to the form, Stacy? Hold on one second. Okay. Oh, thank you for catching that, Mel. Okay, so Jamie, at MVLA, we require students to attend 1 live session a week per course. So in total, a student would attend 6, or if they take on more courses, obviously more live sessions. But at the high school level, you normally only need 1, because you build the course to give a lot of lesson information. It's given to them where they can complete the assignments on their own. This is actually a good question, because Trustee Ford had reached out to me previously in the last couple weeks asking me this very same question, like, what would live sessions look like at the elementary school, middle school, and high school setting? And this is my response. I'm not a complete, total expert, especially when it comes to elementary. Those who are elementary may agree or disagree with me. But at the elementary level, I think obviously they would have to see their teachers a minimum of, like I would say once a day. Now, I would rotate what you're teaching each day, so they have the face-to-face interaction. If we were totally 100% online, they would have the face-to-face interaction through the virtual format of live sessions to tackle assignments in different content areas. But if you have a face-to-face component, my best advice is, and I'm sure this will probably be more agreement than not, my best advice is leave the teaching to the face-to-face part of your schedule with your elementary school students, because then you can answer and help them and guide them literally in the moment, right there face-to-face, and then check in with them through live sessions as like open office hours. So then they can come in, you can see how they're doing, they can ask questions about their assignments and their homework, and really be able to do more remediation and interventions through live sessions, and then keep the instruction for face-to-face. That's how I envision it. That's what I kind of did with my second grader who's going into 3rd grade. I kind of worked with his teacher to do that. So she would basically do like the teaching part, and then we would meet to do some remediation and intervention as needed. At the middle school level, I think they should have about minimum two live sessions a week, 1 for content with the teacher, and the other one as a touch basis open hours. And high school probably also 2 for 100% online. When you go into hybrid, almost always you should be doing most of the teaching face-to-face, and then the live session should be more of application of skills, extension, especially if you're doing like honors or AP or accelerated doing middle school, or even at the elementary level, gifted and talented students. Or when you have SPED students, we all know that they have different needs, entirely different, and they're even more unique and complex. That's where we start doing the interventions and remediations on live sessions. But we have this whole process is, you're going to have to be able to find what works best for you as well, because you may find that your students like having more of the teaching face-to-face and more hands-on with assignments in the classroom. It really does also come down to what your students' needs and preferences are that work with your teaching style. So again, like I said, what I'm sharing with you guys today in regards to live sessions is what has worked for me in the past. It's all about learning basically the foundation for you, and then finding what works for you and your students. And what works for you and your students this year may change next year. I can't tell you how many times that I've had to tweak my routine with my students each year or even just every semester because you're online, because you get different set of skills, you get different styles of learning that come into your classroom that tend to have more needs when you're on a live session version of teaching, where you have to be able to be flexible. You have to be way more flexible. You have to be spontaneous and on the fly. So like the other day when, maybe it was yesterday, I had forgotten to put in your guys' Google form to, it was the other day, I was supposed to collect a link from you guys on your page and a link from you guys on your discussion, or not your discussion, your assignment. And I forgot to put that on your Google page. So on the fly, I created 2 Padlets to collect those URLs. You have to be that quick and flexible in a live session. When we're face-to-face, we do that. We do it very robotically, because that's how our brain works. We are flexible on the fly. There's the challenge of the online part that kind of makes people hesitant. Don't ever be hesitant to be spontaneous and flexible online. The students would actually prefer to see you to be human and make mistakes online, because then they know that it's okay for them to be human and make mistakes online. So there are some ideas that came up in the chat screen as well. So Tasha said she did 3 times a week and met with her RTI students daily. So and those are things that you guys would already be doing on the fly in the classroom. So remembering to do those routines even in live sessions helps students be successful learners in that environment. It's all about how much we're able to be flexible with them and to meet with them and their needs. Carol did summer school this summer, and they had switched off between live sessions and then classroom sessions. Appointments are really good, especially at the high school level, so you're not finding yourself overwhelmed with a bunch of students coming at you with the same thing. Oftentimes when I saw students asking help for the same thing, I would actually do a very spontaneous, on-the-spot live session and said, hey, you 7 have the same question on the same assignment. In an hour, I'm going to go into our classroom and we'll do a one-on-one session together with just you 7. So they can make appointments in Canvas. I prefer to do appointments in Google Calendar though, because then they pop up on my phone better than Canvas does. But again, it's all about your preferences, what you use, what you're comfortable with. Phil, you said there are only 4, right? Only 4 of what? Or did Mel answer it?
Do you mind if I have my microphone off and just ask, or should I type it in?
Okay, I'll leave that there. Okay, so it really is a mashup of how you are working with your students, learning their needs, and what you have to consider what your needs are too. So meeting your needs online to make sure that you're successful, and then coordinate those with your students' learning and their needs as well. So what I want you guys to do is to go ahead and create your Google Drive document. I'm going to go in here and do that with you guys. Go ahead and do a Google Drive document. And then what I want you guys to do is to title it come on, there we go. And then first and last name. So LS, first and last name for your title of your document. And then come over to the share button. And before you copy it, mine's going to say something different. Make sure that you change it. You can change it down to Clark County School District. If yours is probably already set to restricted, so either drop it down to Clark County School District or anyone with a link. Mine is with anyone with a link because I set up my folder for you guys to access today. Now, I'm going to walk you guys through how to create using tables and all these lovely, cool doodad features here on the toolbar up here. You guys are going to be doing some creating today on your own. Feel free to follow along. If you're a little more technology advanced, where you understand tables after I do it, feel free to plug on forward while we're doing this. But again, don't forget to give me your share link and put it in the Google Drive form before you move forward, so you don't forget to do that. When you're creating with tables, what you do is you go up to Insert. Drop it down to Table. Similar to Canvas, you stretch out your columns, you stretch out your rows, so you can make everything neat and pretty. Now, what I do for my first part, so like for my header and my instructions, I just use 1 column, 2 rows. So over here on the right side of your screen, normally these are tools that you guys don't use because they only pop up when you are using lines, and lines come within tables. So the bucket fills in the background of your table. The pencil fills in the color of the lines or the border of your table. Border width, what that does is it makes the lines thicker, make them skinnier. The default is 1. Now, border dash is like if you want to be super fancy and kind of make the different dotted lines or the little tiny dots. Kind of like when you're making that little line for where people cut off on the paper, that's where you would get those in. I normally just use the regular good old line. So what I do is for my headers, I give them color. I use the bucket, background color, and then when you're doing this, you kind of want to stay in these are like the dark feature, bright, bold, vibrant colors, kind of similar to what we use for highlighting. You kind of want to use the next 2 rows underneath the bright, vibrant colors. What I do is for main headers, I use a darker color. And then when I come down here and I start inputting like my tables and stuff to create the actual activity of the assignment, what I'll do is I use a lighter color. So this one right here is the one I used for my first header of the assignment. If I'm going to give headers to the second part of the assignment where the actual activity begins, I would use the lighter color above. So that way it shows precedence to important information. So this would be the title of assignment. Whoa, I can't type today. Title of assignment. But then you have, and again, you can fiddle around with like the alignment. I like to center everything when it's a header. I like to bold things when it's a header. So like question, textual evidence, analysis response. Oops. And again, I'm writing from an English teacher, so I apologize if it doesn't fall in another way. But then now you can see that the information pops out at them. So we all know students do not read instructions fully all the time. We have to give them those visual cues to stay on task. So I do that. But I also try to not keep it all one color. So I try to find colors that work well with each other. So I normally, because I like blue and purple, I normally go back between light blue and like a light lavender, and then I'll switch up. So like if I have more headers down here, my next color would actually be the purple, just so we can give a break. And it's easy on the eyes as well. When you're looking to just, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. When you're looking to take away the lines of a table, so for instance, a lot of my assignments, it looks like this. I put purpose, directions, and then I take the lines away. And what you do is you just click on the line. You see the little left and right arrows coming up with the line in between, and it'll highlight just that line of the cell. If you want to do more at once, which takes a very steady hand, you would do the same thing going around, except now you see the up and down arrow with the line in between when you're at the bottom line. And if I'm going too fast, let me know. Are you guys not hearing me? Okay. Come down to the bottom and then hold down the control key. Like I said, this takes a very steady hand. And then you just walk around with your mouse on the table and highlight the borders. So remember how I showed you guys how to make the lines thicker by coming up here to border with? I make those lines disappear. So it kind of looks like a regular worksheet where it would have a pretty little header. The purpose, like in this assignment, we're going to do this, and then the specific directions. I normally have my directions guide my headers as well. So for instance, if I'm telling the students, answer the following questions and analyze the short story, The Only Daughter, and use textual evidence to support your response. When I set up this sort of graphic organizer to get that kind of information from students, this is how I set it up at the beginning of the semester for about the first 3 to 4 weeks. As we go in further into the semester, you now have to try and get them to integrate their evidence. And I'm pretty sure this is standard across all course content areas. We always try to get them to integrate with their textual evidence. So eventually they would go in, and now we're down to 2 rows where it would be questions and responses. And then you're forcing them to like start combining their information with their evidence to lead them to a written response or an essay. So you have the control to flow the information of how you want to see it. You just build it in tables. You don't have to use a lot of tabs with the tab key. You don't have to like use a bunch of the increase, decrease, indents. Just use tables. Center, make it pretty. And then it helps them with the flow of information as well. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys work for a little bit and see the questions that I have going on in here. I know Mel's been catching most of them. So Maria, I just saw that you had to step away for 15 minutes for your son's session. So I was just showing people how to build tables into a Google document so you can create a worksheet. Do you know how to use tables in the document? Awesome. All right, does anyone have any questions? So how would you use tables with math? Okay, so add-on. So add-ons in documents, I know this is like not live session stuff, but we're actually ahead in our session, so I can do this. So this is especially good for math. So if you go into the add-ons part of your drop-down menus in the Google document, there are a lot of great tools that you can use, including, I believe there's like a math equation that you can create the math equation and put it in. So let's see what they have for math. Oh yeah, math type right there. So you can come in here and you can just look math type. I believe this is, yes. So math type allows you to create those formulas and problems that you would see in a textbook. So that probably is something you can use, Jenna, when you're creating math. I'm not going to download this because I don't do math. I'm English. There's a reason why I do English. I don't do math. All right. How is this given to your students? Okay. So, Jan, were you with me on Tuesday when we discussed pages and assignments? Were you with us on Tuesday? Okay. So you remember how I showed you how to hyperlink the document in the assignment, and it forces them through a copy link to force it into their Google Drive? Do you remember that? Okay, so that's how you would give it to them. And so that's in Tuesday's session, if you guys want to go back and review that on how to hyperlink a Google Drive document into your assignment so they have access to it, but then the copy link, the hyperlink is a copy link that forces them to create a copy into their Google Drive. So that's how you would put that in there. And again, if I'm missing your question, please just re-ask it, because I don't know why I'm not getting everything in my chat. So so Karen asks, how do the students save so I can see their work and grade? So the students would, Karen, the students would give you the share link of the document. So the students would come up to this blue link, and then they would copy the share link and put it in Canvas for you to review, and then it would pop open into Canvas. So let me move this tab over here. I'm going to set up so you guys can see what it looks like on a gradebook side without seeing my students in Canvas. So give me a moment. Okay, so let's do this. No, that's not the one I wanted. Go back. I'm sorry, I'm talking to my computer. Yes, even I talk to my computer. So there's a way to look at your students' assignments, and I'm sorry, it's super slow on my end for all of a sudden, so I apologize. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to drag my Canvas screen over, and I'm going to show you guys what happens. So when you grade an assignment, there's a couple ways to access your grading of your assignments. When you're in your course, normally it'll pop up on the right side over here under where it says View Course Notifications. It'll be populated right, I want to say either above or under coming up. And the only reason why I say this is because I don't grade this way. I don't grade everything in one. Like, for instance, if I have one assignment, I don't grade all 30 students' assignments in that one assignment. I like to see different things so I don't get bored with essays. So that's why I said I don't know if it's before or after this, but it's always on the right side of the screen that you can start grading out the work. I'm going to go ahead and pull an assignment from modules, and then I'm going to show you how you'll see those documents. So let me go ahead and pull my Great Gatsby scavenger hunt. So this is in an old live shell that I had just for this last spring. You'll notice over on the right side, because I've had students and they've submitted work, and this is a live shell, there's this thing here called SpeedGrader. SpeedGrader is basically your digital pile of grading you have to go through for each assignment. You'll click it and open it, and what you'll do is you'll see the assignment right in here in the actual screen. So when the students submit, so this actually answers Karen's question. When the student submits a share link for a Google Drive document, it populates right in here of the screen. Again, rubrics are their own separate beast, and I'm not covering them in the webinar series. That's something I'm going to do later on that you guys can feel free to sign up for. But this is where you would come in and you would leave feedback. You can leave feedback on their assignments by highlighting, and then you'll see the little pop-up bubble here. And if you hover over to say add a comment, you can leave feedback in here in their document, and they'll get instant access to it on their end in their Google Drive. You can leave feedback in the rubric. So you can set up the rubric to have specific components, just like what we would do for a paper rubric. And then you can go through. Now, I can't add it in here right now because this is a closed down concluded course. But when you have a live course and you're grading, under the points section on the right side of your rubric, there will be a little comment bubble where you can click on it and then leave comments in the assignment. So let me see if I can find. So like right here, you can see that I was able to click on it when it was a live shell. And then this student, some of his answers were not complete sentences. So then I let him know that this is an English course. Be sure to write in complete sentences unless the directions otherwise state. So you're able to leave comments within the rubric as well. So I hope that answers your question, Karen. So I do have a test student in all my courses, Mel. I just don't know how to access it. They never taught us how to do it. So maybe that's something you can show me later. Yes, so Jan, some of my worksheets, like, so for instance, some sessions that I have with students are guided notes, because there are times where we can't avoid not having lecture style live sessions, especially when we're 100% online. So I would do guided notes so they can focus on the keywords on the screen. I force my kids to listen, so I'll put keywords and phrases on the screen, and then I'll tell them to listen. And then I'll prompt them after each time I say something important that they need to fill into their notes. I'll tell them, now, based on what you've heard and these key words and phrases, fill out this part of your document for your notes. It really is a lot of guiding. I try to do a lot of guiding without giving them the answers. But again, I'm teaching, this is talking about 11th and 12th graders. It's going to be totally different with middle school and elementary. So Jeffrey asked, what Google extensions do you recommend for online learning? That's a whole separate session, sir. I would need a whole session just dedicated to that. Oops, sorry, that's my lunch alarm. I apologize for that. Oh, okay. That's good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Mel. Yeah, I even got taught something today. How cool is that? The teacher got taught something today. All right. So how are we doing on our worksheets? How are you guys feeling about it? Do you guys have questions? Oh, Catherine is one of my Gold Star students. She's done. Do you want to give us the share link and I can show it in the session? Are you bold enough to share with us, Catherine? Oh, sure, Travis. You're talking about one of my worksheets. Did you have a specific worksheet you wanted to see? All right. Catherine, go ahead and put your share link in the chat screen and I'll open it up. Oh, the one I created with you. Okay, there you go. Let me know when you're done. Did you just take a picture of it, Travis? Can I move over Catherine's doc? Okay, so Kimberly, or Kim, I'm sorry if you like to be called Kim instead of Kimberly. So the share link you would use, are you talking about to share into the Google Drive or the Google form? Kim, is that what you're asking about? Okay, so just the share link under the blue button. Just copy the link and paste it into the Google form. Ooh, Virginia, thank you for sharing. I'll do that too. So Virginia created a kindergarten example. So this is Catherine's. I'm about to drag it over. Ooh, this is pretty. See, you guys can get all pretty and stuff. I like that you love purple too. Okay, so then English too. So you can see that she did question, textual, evidence, analysis, response, just like mine. Again, you guys can set this up any way you want. If this is how you envision it and help them, that's cool. That's very nice. I like how you changed up the header text styles with the fonts. That's really cool, very eye-catching. So this is Catherine's, and then this is Virginia's. She did it in Google Slide. So Catherine, I see that you did a, oh, how cute. So this is a drag and drop, isn't it? So can you do me a favor, Virginia? Can you give me access to it? And what you would do is come up to, it's the orange button in Slides. What you would do is you would come in, and then down here where it says Get Link, drop it down to anyone at Clark County School District so I can access it, and then I can show everyone how you created this drag and drop. It is super adorable, isn't it? All right. Woo, that is so cool. What starts with them? What doesn't start with them? Oh, this is super cool. So yeah, you could do this also, but you could also do this in a Google Sheet or a Google document as well, Virginia. You would just, if you want the long way of a slide, what you would do is, let me open mine up. If you want the landscape, all you do is go up to File, go all the way down to Page Setup, and then go to Landscape. Now, here's the caveat with this. If you've built in Portrait, sometimes this will happen right here. You can drag it over and then try to align it ever so, like I'm one of those people where I can tell if it's just a little tad off. What I usually do is I try to, I went back to Portrait, I select all. So you can Control A or right click. No, not right click. So I Control A for select all, go down to Page Setup and Landscape. Now, this doesn't always work, but most times it does. This time it didn't. So what you would do is, if this happens and you decide to switch it over, you just drag the line over. I can't guarantee you'll ever get it ever so perfect. But you can do that. So Virginia, you could actually do the same thing that you did in the slide and do it in the worksheet as well, so they have something to submit to you. Hyperdocs. Okay, so can you tell me a little, because I have an idea what hyperdocs are. Can you tell me what hyperdocs are in the chat screen, Maria? It's been a while since I've heard this term, like 5 or 6 years. Unless you want them, go ahead and turn on your microphone. You can tell us too, so you don't have to type it. No, what do you mean no? Well, you can type it then. All right, so yes, you can use hyperdocs. I thought for sure that meant hyperlinks in the document. So this is kind of similar to my my scavenger hunt document that I created, except I gave them guided questions. You give them their tasks up here, which is similar to the guided questions. So yeah, you can use these in your course if you wanted to, Maria. You wouldn't have to recreate these at all. Anchor charts are fine. It's whatever you want to use in, like I said, you don't have to do the whole live session worksheet that I did. That's just how I do it to make sure that high school students are on task. I'm pretty sure elementary school, middle school kids are a lot better in following with you guys in a live session than high school students, which is why I force students to go through that route, because otherwise they don't pay attention to what they're doing in the live session and they just listen for the verbal cues. All right, so now we're going to go do this activity together, and that's when they come back to the screen. I force them to pay attention to the screen the whole time. So she did share it in the chat screen. Whoever asked for the figurative language, Disha, she shared it. Maria, you willing to share that hyperdoc again with the figurative language? Someone's asking for it. All right. Do you ever call on students verbally to make sure they are on task, or is that cruel? So it really depends on your students. I tend, even the online environment, I spend the first 3 weeks of the semester building community. So I'm able to do that. Or what I do is I say, you know, I'm noticing that I'm a little light on comments over here. Please remember that you need to participate 100% of the time in order to get points for today's session and attendance. So sometimes you can call on them verbally, but most times you don't have to, just reminding them that they have to participate. They should be going along with you, doing things. And then you'll notice, you'll know at the end if they choose to do the document or not, then that's on them. I believe it just has to deal with, 1, the grade level, and 2, your teaching style. I'm pretty dry and sarcastic with my students. So if I'm like, hey, Johnny, I haven't seen you typing for like 5 minutes. What's up? They'll come back to the computer and let me know, oh, miss, my dog was up on me. You know, they'll be honest. It just all has to do with your community building and how your teaching style and classroom management works with you. I don't find it cruel. That comes with tone of voice. Tone of voice is the cruel part. Like when you like snap at them and tell them, hey, you're not working. That's where the cruel part comes in. But if you're just saying, Johnny, I don't see you working on the document, please come back to the computer and work on your document, that's not cruel at all. And I am trying to catch all the questions as possible. Again, if I missed your question, re-ask it in the chat screen. So we're sitting at 11:10. How many of you guys are still working on your documents? Okay. Awesome. All right. So some people are still working, some people are done. That's all good. I'm going to save on that. All right. So let's see here. What I want you guys to do if you're done is go ahead and answer the following question in your Google form in your Padlet. If you're not done, that's fine. You can continue to work on it. You don't have to have a complete document to submit to me. It's just to show that you are, working along with the webinar and that you understand what's going on. Now that you have had time to work with your ideas behind a live session, what are some questions and concerns you still have? This part of the session of you guys building with me, that's the rest of the session. So we're actually ahead of schedule. You guys can give yourselves a pat on the back for that, because you guys have gotten to the point where you guys are more comfortable with the digital tools. You guys are working ahead of schedule. I expected us to still be struggling at 11:30 with documents today. So you guys are blowing it through. I think those who are still working are making it super pretty. That's what's going on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. You can definitely look at keeping track of attendance and participation. The participation part outside of the worksheets is going to be a hard one. I don't know who asked this specific question for attendance or expresses concern, because I have that concern also in Google. If we're forced to use Google Meet, how would I know my students are interacting with me? In Adobe Connect, there's like a little meter that tells me whether they're in there and they're clicking, they're sitting there engaged within the screen. If they're, responding in the chat screen, it tells me they're engaged, they're green. If they're starting to fall off engagement, it goes yellow and then red. So I have that in Adobe Connect. I don't know if there's anything like that for Google Meet, so that'll be interesting. But the district also has something called Saba Centra, which is similar to Blackboard Connect, or excuse me, Blackboard Collaborate or Adobe Connect, where it's more functional and has more tools than Google Meet. Oh, okay. So what you can do, Phil, where's mine? You just click into the cell, and then it'll pop up this extra part of the menu. Click on the little bucket where it looks like it's pouring out paint, and then you can choose your color in there. I think a lot of our questions are going to be regarding to some of the things we're not able to answer right now. So I just saw one. Oh, okay, so this one right here, I'm going to open this one. Hopefully it doesn't like move on me. So this one says, I have questions regarding office hours for cohorts A and B. What is the standard going to be, and how will we track attendance and participation? So a lot of concerns about attendance and participation with live sessions, and that is a good concern to have, because again, there's too many questions and no answers. I'm sorry, hold on one second. I have a child in here. Hold on one second. I apologize for that, you guys. My 5-year-old is now in timeout, and she has to give me a token from her jar. Yeah, I'm calling you out, little girl. While mommy's in her session, giving her big sister a hard time. Put your jar back. Sit down. You now have timeout for 5 minutes. Thank you. I apologize for that. All right, so I do know one answer that should definitely be your answer for when your office hours should be. Your office hours should be during your contracted time. We should not be answering and leading sessions outside of our contracted time. Now, again, I know our contract states that some professional responsibilities can and should be completed outside of our contracted time to make sure we are completing them. But if this is part of our instructional portion of our job, it should be during our contracted time. So I at least know that answer. The rest of what is the standard going to be? How are we going to track attendance and participation? I feel that that's going to be probably site-based. So your administrators would probably have more of an outline definition of what they foresee. For instance, like I told you guys, they may give you a lesson plan template to use to show them how you map out your live sessions. They may give you specific times of when you need to be online with your students. They there may be a lot of things that are going to be, for the lack of a better word, and I know this is a lackluster word and we don't like it, micromanagement. There's probably going to be a lot of that. Maria's face said it all for us. We're going to have a lot of micromanagement. It is a new way of doing things for our district. In theory, there's 47 full-time teachers in our district that does this on a regular, and then we have some part-time teachers who do it on the side for NVLA, but everyone is going to probably need some guidance, and we all know administrators, not as a whole, but we do have some administrators that feel guidance means micromanagement, and these are the steps you will complete it. And If it's given to us, we have to follow it because it's a directive. So we'll have to wait and see until we go back on our report back time and our campuses to see what's really laid out. I do see a lot of hesitation about everything being new. You guys took a crash course this week, so things being new is definitely a concern. If you have a concern about things being new, your students will have concerns about things being new. So it's going to take a lot of, as a collective for us teachers and OLPs, our other licensed personnel that work with students, or even our parapros that are aides in the classroom. If we're required to force ourselves into this environment, we are going to have to do a lot of practicing as well. We are going to have to find ways to engage with our students as well, learning them on a personal level, especially if we start off. It would be really sad, especially for our elementary school kids. I'm going to tell you guys right now, my little 5-year-old, she's going into kindergarten. It's breaking my heart to even think she's not going to be able to have the first day of kindergarten her siblings had, or what we know what the first day of school is going to be for our kids. We will have to find a way to build community with our students online. There's just too many unknowns and they're not being answered. So if I don't have an answer, I apologize. I try to have answers as much as possible. But when it comes to us reopening our schools, we don't even have a plan in place that has questions answered. So it's really hard for me to give answers in that sense. So let's see. Do we have any other questions? OCD principles, yes. Let's see. Yeah, and that's the thing. Yes, Phil, unfortunately, it seems like we're all in the business of micromanagement in some form by our administrators. So Erin makes a good point. Unfortunately, and we have this problem even in the classroom as classroom teachers. In most cases, when we want to contact a parent, it usually has to be through email, because when they're available, we're at home with our families. So it will be interesting to see if the district will be willing to give us some leniency to work from home and split our hours. I highly doubt it. At NVLA, we still had to report to campus 4 days a week. So we went on campus Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, similar to combining cohort A and cohort B. And then Wednesdays, bless you, we worked from home, but we had to have set hours, and we reported those set hours to our administrators, and we had to work those set hours. So for instance, my schedule for the last 2 years were Mondays, I worked full-time on campus, 7 a.m. to 3:11 p.m. because we had SBCT. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I worked 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., was off in the afternoon, and came back online from 4 to 7 p.m. So I worked my 7 hours and 11 minutes. And then Wednesdays, I worked from home from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then 4 to 7 p.m. in the evening. Bless you. And then Fridays was a full day of 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Fridays were usually our parent-teacher conference days, so we had to be on campus full day. Bless you. Okay, you can come out of timeout now, little girl. Here's a tissue. Can you go blow your nose outside of this door so that they don't hear your snots, please? Can you close my door, please? Thank you, Tiny. Behave for your sister, please. Okay, so Disha, on your end, can you see who put in what post? Are you talking about for my Padlet? No, I did that on purpose so people felt, if they post their original post, they felt comfortable with anonymity. I think I said that right. I always screw up that word. They're able to post anonymously in order to feel comfortable to share their concerns and worries. So I don't necessarily see it, but if you want me to know who it is, in the past someone has told me their name in their original post, so I know who it is. Let's see. Jeffrey asked, what is happening at the district level to provide families-oriented lessons and videos to introduce families and parents to Canvas or other LMS programs? That is a good question, Jeffrey. That wasn't answered on July 9th. when they went through the whole reopening plan, that wasn't answered. So, but it is on their to-do list to make sure they provide training to families. They just weren't able to answer exactly what that would look like. If Carlana was in charge, what I would do personally, this is what I would do, and I'll probably still do this for my own, because I need to keep busy, so I'm not sitting here freaking out what back to school is going to look like for me. I would personally create your own like orientation for students in your course, orientation for your parents. So remember when you guys were in my course, and I could pull it up again, you guys were in my course and you saw that there was a getting started module. And then there were practice assignments for students to do that were aligned with what I would expect them to do and how to do things in the course. You can definitely build a workroom for your parents and build what I would call like a parent university for Canvas. And you could basically guide them through what it looks like. And then that way you can even copy your content just as their kids would see it in their classroom, but it's just for the parents. And then they can click around and it won't disturb your grade book. They can click around, they can do the activities as you would set it out for their students. That way they can see what their children are doing. You can provide information that way to your parents. But again, that's putting a lot of work on you. You're right, the district should be providing that. That is, Carol I always put out what the office hours are. And if they contact us that we're not in those hours, I will get back to them in 24 hours. Or if they contact them the weekend, then it would be on Monday. So what Carol's sharing with us is pretty standard. That's what we do at NVLA also, is we basically tell the parents that if we don't answer your email or your text message or your Canvas Messenger, because when your parents sign up for an observer account in Canvas, they can message you through the inbox as well, just like their student. We can always tell them we'll answer within 24 hours. It's no different than them leaving a message with us on our school phone. If we can't access our school phone from home, I mean, we can. But the reality is we have to build our presence within our contracted time and keep consistent. You guys don't want to get burned out like I do. I loved working at NVLA, but it did take up a lot of my time because I always felt the need to be plugged in to my courses and plug into my students in case, what is that, Will? William, are you holding up something for me to read? I just, it's a very, very disheartening to me because I loved what I was doing online as a teacher, but I was getting burned out because I was never really getting, I was never unplugging from my course. And it's very hard to not do that as teachers because we love our students and we want to make sure we give them everything we can within our means. But we also have to think about ourselves. We have to think about our families. And because of my split schedule, I was working in the evenings. I was never seeing my kids. That's the reason why I went back to the classroom. You just don't ever unplug. You're going to have to find the means to unplug and give yourself that space away from your work, especially if we start working from home 100% of the time. If we go back to phase one, if we're doing hybrid, we have to find a way to say, look, like, so for instance, I believe it was Erin that said she'll take messages up till 6 o'clock. If that's what you choose to do, that's fine, but keep it consistent. Don't derail from that. The moment you derail from what you set up as your boundaries, parents and students will push them because they know we care. And there's nothing wrong with us caring, but we have to care for ourselves and our families too. All right, so Tasha asks, how do parents sign up? Do they need to be linked to their child in Infinite Canvas? So parents can sign up by clicking on the homepage of Instructure Canvas. So I think I have to log out. Hold on one second. Right here where it says, Tasha, parents get accounts too when you guys log in. They would need the student parent code and an email address. They don't necessarily have to be an Infinite Campus. However, if they contact you about their grades in Canvas and they're not attached to Infinite Campus, then you can't talk to them. It is best practice for them to be linked into Infinite Campus. That way, if they contact you directly, you can talk to them. But it's not necessary for them to sign up for this observer account to watch over their students. Jamie Gropp asks, why does Canvas always call the courses workroom? How can this be changed so students see these courses? Okay, so I kind of dabbled in this the last couple of days. So what happens is we can create workrooms. They become courses when they are automatically populated from Infinite Campus. So Infinite Campus pushes out the courses into our Canvas learning management system, and they auto-populate our students in there too. It becomes a course when there is an attachment to Infinite Campus through a course code. And that's when we get the live course shell. So you cannot create a live course shell, you can create the workrooms. At least that's the parameters of the teacher role. They can change by the Canvas controller on your campuses, but in most cases, the district does not want that fiddled with because they want you to be able to just focus on the students, and then the district will push out automatically the courses. I hope that makes sense. All right. Okay, Mel's answering a lot of questions too. Yes, your wife is probably agreeing with me. But you can call her out too, because sometimes she doesn't unplug, Tasha. Can I share my Canvas course workroom with other teachers so my grade level can help build components of it, so not just one person has to build it by themselves? Danielle Palmer, yes, you can do that. You can. So remember how you added me into your workroom? You would do the same thing with other teachers, and then you would just add them as the role of teacher so they can edit and build in your course. Is it possible to have do not disturb hours? I know some would do after 8 weekends. You can have do not disturb hours. There's no way to set them on Canvas. Just have that, like, for instance, on your messaging and your communication with your parents consistently. So kind of similar to our signatures and emails, always list your office hours in your email signature, and then that's how they'll know. So Tasha asked, so that means for elementary, we would get a course for each thing. You talking about like each content area, Tasha? I don't think that would be the case, but unless that's what your site administrators want. I would imagine that would be a pain in the bottom, but on the same hand, that's a lot of grading going into one grade book because you guys have multiple content areas with multiple assignments. I honestly don't know what it looks like for an elementary school. Let's see. Michelle Freeland asked, do you pay for the unlimited Padlet? Does CCSD have a district license or account? Yes, I pay for Padlet for the unlimited feature. I have not tried Mentimentor. I do use Google Chat. I use Google. So Google Chat, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful with Mentimentor. Anywhere where you guys are going back and forth electronically with students, you have to be very careful and make sure that it's on the approved technology list. I have to find if they've updated it. I have the link somewhere buried in my email because we received it at the beginning of the school year at NVLA. Per CCSD regulation and policy 4100, we have to use an approved set of applications where you and your students are going back and forth. You have to watch what you're using. So you don't necessarily, you have to use Google Hangouts, but you cannot use Google Voice. You can use Remind, you can use Edmodo, but you can't, you can use Class Dojo, but you can't just, you know, like if something really new and cool comes out, you can't just say, I'm going to try this out with my students. You have to actually get it approved by the district and proactively approved by your administrator to try it out with your students. You'd have to come up with a proposal. It's a process. A lot of apps got cut in the last 2 years by the technology department because if there's a way for you to delete messages, they won't approve it. Let's see. And then Michelle Freeland had more questions. What is the difference between recording Meet and streaming it? So recording a Google Meet allows you to have like a physical copy of what you do. So like when I'm done with your guys' Google Meets, it goes straight into my Google Drive. It drops the video file into my Google Drive, and then I upload it into YouTube for you guys to see it in a public format. You can keep them in your Google Drive. It'll take up space. We have unlimited space for like Google Drive items. I have not looked into see if the Google Meet videos count as part of the unlimited space because it's from a Google app. So I'll have to look into that. Streaming it, okay, so like today, so for this week for our webinar series, those of you that can talk in my chat, you're part of the Google Meet. But then those who are watching the live stream, they're able to see the same screen you do, but they don't get to have the chat feature. So that's the difference between live stream and Google Meet. And then do we need permission from students and parents to record live meets? Yes, you will. The district will more likely have general counsel draft up a form that all parents will need to sign in order to do the Google Meets. I'm not sure what the process would be if a student, like for instance, we do have some parents who are very strict and stringent about not having their students being recorded in any way, and that's their right as a parent. But I don't know what the workaround would be for that student outside of reviewing the recording and doing an assignment later. Okay. Jeffrey asks, are specialists going to have a course for every elementary classroom in the school? That's probably going to be a site-based question, Jeffrey. It could be possible. All right. Yes, Mel, Canvas does have Big Blue Button and it is approved on the list, but I don't know if we have like I don't know if there's like a limitation on the license. I don't know what CCSD has on the back end for that. Let's see, Carol, I'm sure they use it like great. Okay, so Carol, so the definite answer of who is going to use Canvas is definitely grades 6 through 12. From my understanding in the principals meeting, it will be site-based elementary if they're going to use Canvas or Google Classroom. However, schools may look at splitting that because Canvas is very hard and not user-friendly for pre-K through 2. There is content being built for grades 3 through 5 by the NVLA elementary school program that's starting up this year. So my guess for grades 3 through 5 is your school may bump you into Canvas, so you don't have to create everything on your own, and you would have access to the canned content through NVLA, but that's an assumption. The only thing I do know for sure is that grades 6 through 12 will be in Canvas. Tasha, no, we cannot use Google Voice. What we can do though is I don't know if every teacher was given the document on how to forward your desk phone, your district desk phone to your cell phone. So you would have to dial in and dial out from a certain number or something like that. The district, I don't know if the district would be looking into this also. NVLA has been piloting since last summer. So we've done 2 summers and 1 full school year cycle of using Remind.com. Remind.com offers texting and calling from the app for a specific price of a license. I don't know if CCSD is looking to do that for the whole district. It would be smart. It's a separate app. We don't have to give out our numbers. It would go directly into an app similar to like Google Voice. The only reason why we used it at NVLA is because, again, we couldn't use Google Voice anymore because you can delete messages and texts and phone call logs, whereas in Remind you can't. It's attached to the student, it's attached to the parent, and then it's attached to the teacher. No one can delete anything that happens within Remind when they're sent out from specific accounts. Let's see. Michelle asked, do you think they will have an updated list of approved apps and platforms for this upcoming year? I'm going to answer this. You're asking about CCSD. CCSD is not always on top of their stuff. If it were Carlana over the list, yes, you would have an updated list. I'm sure there are bigger priorities right now for them to tackle. Like, I would love an improved list that's updated for the upcoming school year, but I kind of need to know how we're teaching first before I even think about what applications I'm going to use. So Carol asked, is it on the form already that they signed for use of technology? Carol, are you talking about the AUP? Yes, there's an AUP. I thought I did my kids' registration earlier, and I went to check, and I didn't do 2 of them. So I had to sign my AUP for my students today. So it's actually in the registration. I do know because there was a huge spring semester at NVLA anyways, and I know some parents and schools have felt this. A lot of parents did not submit their AUP forms, and a lot of kids got dropped from district access to computers and internet in January because they didn't have them in. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a paper copy also when we go back to school, or they'll push it in as a digital document to sign for parents at the beginning of the school year so we can make sure we have all those online. So there is no workaround from YouTube. You would have to talk to your school about giving access. I don't know why they would block YouTube. YouTube has a lot of stuff. Our YouTube, when you force students to log in using their CCSD Gmail account, it forces them through 𝘤𝘠𝘬𝘐𝑠, which allows for approved channels through YouTube. So that's a conversation you would have to have with your school. Okay. Mel answers some more questions. And then, yes, PBS does offer recording through ClassCast, which we all actually have access to, I believe. Vegas PBS does offer a course on that where you can gain grad credits or CUs, so you can do that. Class Dojo is good for elementary. We just don't have Class Dojo for like middle school and high school. I mean, I'm sure it's cute and everything, but it doesn't work with middle school and high schoolers and their parents. Ours would be more like Edmodo or Remind. All right, we're sitting at 11:40. Again, like I said, this is pretty much all I had for you guys today. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the session, but I'll keep recording and moving forward as long as there's still questions. You guys can, what I'll do is I'll open up questions to you guys in regards to everything we've learned so far, except if you're going to ask questions about these topics, I prefer to leave them for tomorrow. Oh, I put the wrong date. Saturday the 18th. So tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It'll be a straight up discussion. We're going to do like 10, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 minutes for each topic to discuss online. This is where you guys can use your microphones if you want, or type your questions and comments into the chat screen. So tomorrow we're going to look at active discussion on utilizing the learning management system. So you guys kind of had those questions asked today and answered. Looking at contact in the blended and online learning environment. So maybe outside of the teacher log and Infinite Campus, if you want a different quote unquote hard copy, what would that look like? We're looking at implementing contact. I think I did that twice. Discussing concerns and resolutions with using Canvas, and just discussing blended and online learning in general. It's new for a lot of people. So with that being said, thank you for joining me in today's sessions today. Again, I'll stay here until 12 o'clock and continue to answer questions. If you guys have already completed your Google form, please make sure you submit it. And I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Now, before you guys do leave, I do want to let you know that a lot of people did not use their seats today, and I know a lot of people would like to take advantage of tomorrow's session in discussion of Canvas and asking questions. So if you want to share with your friends that I will be releasing information through email and on Facebook on how to grab one of those seats to be inside of the conversation, that will be coming forward later today. So you can forward to your friends so they can sign up for those spots. So Stacy, there's not going to be a Google form for tomorrow. But, well, maybe I should have a Google form because then you wouldn't be able to claim those 3 hours in some way. I'll find a way for you to watch and participate, probably doing similar to like the Google Forms where you give me your answer from the Padlets so you can answer some of the questions in regard to some of the topics. That's a good point. Thank you for asking that. Oh, yes, please tell Mel thank you for joining us. She did not have to. And it's fine, Mel. That's fine. We're just discussing tomorrow. We're not doing anything fancy tomorrow. So thank you again, Mel, for coming in and jumping in with us and helping us. Yes, because I'm still going for 2 hours, Maria. I'm staying here for another 17 minutes. Oh, I can show you right now, Phil, because we have extra time. So if anyone wants to see how to embed a Google form into an assignment in Canvas so the students don't have to go out, I know a lot of people had Google Forms as quizzes from Google Classroom. So I can definitely do that and record it right now. All right, so anytime that you're using, so like I was talking to Phil about this last night, the caveat about this is instead of copying and pasting all your questions and answers into Canvas quizzes, you can embed your Google form that you have created as a quiz in Classroom so the students can take it without going outside of the course. The caveat is, while you didn't have to do all the copy and pasting, you will have to manually input the score from the quizzes into Canvas through the gradebook. That's a whole separate beast, but at least you won't have to copy and paste a bajillion things. So in order to embed a Google form, let me find one. And you could do this too when you create like a Google form as a student survey at the beginning of the year. You can embed it into an assignment. You can embed it into a page. All right. Classroom. So if you did these, if you're grabbing your Google form quizzes from Classroom, you should have a folder titled Classroom that populated within your Google Drive when you started putting stuff into Google Classroom. Just go through and find your quiz in your folder. So I'm going to just pick a random one. So you open the quiz. You come up to, I believe it's send. Yep, send. And then you'll see there's a little envelope for email. There's the link for the hyperlink to give as a link in your documents or assignment. And then there's the caret bottoms that go left and right, or the keyboard Pac-Mans, as I used to call them as a kid. This is where you get the embed code to do that. So you come in here. I wouldn't mess with this part here unless you're really good at knowing how long your quiz is going to be. If it's long, at least if they're scrolling, they're in the same screen. Grab this code. It automatically highlights for you. Right-click, copy. So again, I'm going to go over that process again. Find your code, your quiz. Open it. Come up to send. Let me find a different one. These all should not be blank. These are all blank. All right, so there we go. Click on send when it opens. go across send via, and then click on the Pac-Mans, and then get your embed HTML code, highlight, copy, come back into assignments, create a new assignment. Come down here where you find the window opener, the window slider right here. Right next to it, you see the Pac-Mans with the slash in between them. It'll say switch to raw HTML editor. You'll click on that. And then you will right click and paste your quiz in here. Come back down to the Pac-Mans with the slash in between. Go back to rich text editor. And then there's your quiz right here, right in the assignment. If you want to have it centered, you can just highlight it by clicking on it, go over to alignment, click center. Oh, you don't want to move. All right. So this is where you have an HTML tip coming in because it wants to be funky. Go back into HTML editor. And I'll make this bigger so you guys can see it because I know it's a little small on your end. Is that good? All right, so you'll come in here before the P, open, center, close. This will tell the coding to center your document in the middle of the screen, but then you have to make sure to close it as well. So just like the paragraph is closed here, you want to come down here, open, slash, center, close. This tells it to start and stop the centering of alignment. Come back down here to the editor. And now it is centered. So let me put this back to where I had it. Oh, it stopped centering. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But hey, at least you didn't have to copy and paste all of these questions for the students to deal with it. So then you don't even have to do anything. You could just put no submission. They take it in here. It doesn't submit anything. It goes into your Google Classroom. And then you pull the scores from there. And then save, or when you're in the class, save and publish. Make sure you always give it a title. Oh, I did not know my dogs were in here. Sorry. Hold on one second. All right, so now your students have access to the quiz, and then if you see right here, they do everything in here. They scroll, 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 and then they submit. They can get a copy of their responses, and then you go in the back end of Google Classroom, retrieve those scores. You would go into your grade book, going through grades. I can't show you that because there's nothing in there. And then you could just manually input the grade down the column for the assignment. So that's how you embed your Google quizzes from Google Forms into your assignments, Phil. Janet, I'm sorry, I just now saw your question because I was walking through the how to put in a Google quiz. Tomorrow is where we're making up the last one. Tomorrow morning, Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on the discussion for Canvas. We didn't have to make up another course because I just did day 3 yesterday. We're doing day 4 today and day 5 tomorrow. Let's see. Clarissa says, say you make a mistake on an assignment you created in Canvas and you realize it after you publish it, but students already submitted the assignment. Can you fix it and republish it so students can now see the fixed assignment? Yes, so you would just go back in and edit. Now, if you did a Google document as something that they're supposed to write in, you would fix the document, but then you would have the problem of having students redo the work. So if you're talking about the assignment itself, like the actual document they're supposed to work on, they would have to revise. And then if you're talking about just this pretty part where you put the instructions for the assignment, all you would do is go to the assignment. Let me exit out of here and click on the edit button, and then it'll change right on the spot. You do not have to delete it. So, Janet, when you use Canvas Gradebook, it actually imports through Passback into Infinite Campus. So you don't have to input anything in Infinite Campus for your gradebook. So Jamie asked, can you scroll down and tell what you select for submission type? Are you talking about for submitting a quiz like this, Jamie? Okay, so you can put in no submission. And here's the reason why. They don't have to submit anything in here. It's just an assignment page. It has a score attached to it for your gradebook, but they're actually submitting it in that Google form, so they don't have to have an actual submission in Canvas. All right, Terry asks, if you embed the quiz into Canvas, do students still have to save a copy so that they are able to complete it without messing up with the Google Doc? No, they don't have to save this at all. This is embedded right into the window for them to take the quiz right here. And then when they're done, they submit it and they can click to get a copy of their responses. You guys have me for 5 more minutes. Any other questions? Okay, hold on one second. Do I have to add grades to Canvas or for an assignment outside of Canvas, or can I just add directly into IC? So you can add things in Infinite Campus, but with Passback, it's easier to add. If you're using Canvas, you should do all the additions of grading in Canvas and then push it forward into Infinite Campus from Canvas. I don't think there's a way for me to show you guys. They may have taken me out already because summer school's over. Let me see if I can log in and show you what I mean by, well, no, because then it would push grades forward. If we are required to do Passback, we will be shown how to do this through our trainings, because we had to be over at NBLA because that's how we put our grades in Infinite Campus. Otherwise, we wouldn't have normally used Infinite Campus outside to report grades for report cards and progress reports. Is the Canvas gradebook set up for elementary school standards? So that is a good question. If you come into your course, on the left side of your course screen in the course navigation sidebar, if you come down to outcomes, that is a good question. I have never dealt with this before. So people have been able to grade it by importing documents. I don't have documents for this, but there have been people who have created them in Canvas for elementary. Again, if you're a school that does the standard, I think it's called Standards Mastery. That's usually what like an elementary gradebook is like mostly the standards versus assignment and points like it is for middle school and high school. Those people are given the templates to upload into Canvas to do. I don't know how to do that. Allison asks, can you create fake grades so we can see an example of the Canvas gradebook? Actually, what I can do is I can give you a screenshot of what it looks like and then take students out. That's what I can do. Would that be helpful, Allison? Okay, give me a second. All right, as I'm waiting for that screen to load, let me see what other questions I have here. Okay, Jamie asked, in the past videos, have you gone over how to organize the modules so to assign to students? So the organizing part of modules is up to you. It just has to deal with using the indentations. You're talking about like how it looks as a flow, like in my workroom. Jamie, is that what you're asking? Okay, so that's where you kind of get a little like creative and nitty-gritty with your courses. So when you guys start creating modules, you notice that when you click the plus module, it automatically gives you this palish bar. But if you want to do more like what I have here, where I have like lesson components broken out within the module, what you would do is within the module bar, click on this plus sign. And my computer is slow. All right, and then it will pop up this other nifty window. It allows you to add a few things, and again, my computer is running super slow, so I'm sorry. You can add in assignments, quizzes, a file. Now here's a reminder, how many megabytes do you get in the course? And do we want to attach files? So be very careful and frugal with files. You can insert a page that you've created, a discussion, text header are the gray bars where you see titles. That's what I use. You can also use an external URL to have them access documents. So if you wanted to add a header, you just click on text header and then test. You can indent it. I normally don't indent the headers, and then add it. Again, this is super slow. I think it's because of my my streaming. I'm going to go ahead. It's 12 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the streaming and recording. That's probably going to help with my